Hey everyone, Joe Axman here. In this video, I want to talk about aspects. So I hope everyone's doing well. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and book a reading with me, macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. But let's get into it. All right, so there are many different aspects. I'm going to go over about 11 aspects today with you guys, and I have the chart here. Obviously, I've got rid of all the planets except for Sun and Mars. So we'll make it simple and we'll just keep it that way. And yeah, generally the Sun likes Mars, so it's a good combination. So the first one obviously is the conjunction, right? And I have it here um, set up, preloaded for you at 10 degrees Virgo, Sun and Mars. Now it doesn't really matter what sign it's in or what planets. We could be talking about the sun and moon, the sun and Mercury, the sun and Venus, the sun and Jupiter, the sun and Mars, Mars, Venus, Mars, Mercury, any two planets, right? We're just talking about the conjunction, so don't get it confused with anything else. And it's not really about the first house, but the conjunction does relate to the first house energetically. It has an Aries vibe to it because it's so singular, right? Um, it really deals with the self. So whenever you see a tight conjunction of planets, this is indicative of a certain skill or talent or quality that a person has, right? And it's going to be very, very tight. It's usually if there's a conjunction, but there's space in between, then it's loose or it's weaker, and it can indicate another person, right? The sun with Mars several degrees away might have somebody close to them who's very Mars-like, right? But when it's conjunct like this, it's really talking about the person themselves. Even it's still talking about the person themselves when there's space in between, but it's like, you know, is it this way or that way? It could go different ways, right? But when it's this real tight, like the same degree, that's really just about the person, right? Then you have, like in the case of Sun and Mars, the person's very Martian, very active and initiating and aggressive, and they're always on the move. They have a strong aggressive mind and they're action oriented, right? But it could, we're not doing necessarily Mars. That's just an example. It could be any two planets, right? You take the qualities of those two planets and you just put them together, right? And that's what you get. And it does indicate certain skills or talents or qualities or uh, yeah, a focus that's imbued upon the person. So it's very strong. This is number one. Obviously, the conjunction represents as far as the number relationship. It's number one, right? It's unification. The most potent and powerful combination, right? Um, then we're gonna go to the second one, which is semi-sextile. Got to fine tune it here just to be there. We are. All right, 6 and 6. The semi-sextile. Let me just try and get it. All right, that's closer. Um, so then we have, depending on how we look at it, we have a first house, second house relationship, or a first house, 12th house relationship, right? Both are correct, right? So how do these two work together? Well, they're obviously going in the same direction, right? Directionally similar, right? But there's not a lot of polarity between the two planets, and um, it's sort of like they're headed in the same direction, but they know each other. They can work together, but there's no real like, yeah, that's like Bob at the office. You know, Bob. We both do similar things. We work fine, but it's like, take it or leave it. We're doing similar stuff. Bob's fine. I'm fine. I like Bob. Bob likes me. We're good. especially if it's similar degree. We can work together, we can collaborate, but at the end of the day, we're going to go home and we're not going to think about each other, right? It's something like that, right? There's no real attraction, but certain similarity is definitely like another outside yourself. It's not like a conjunction where it's like you, it's something else, somebody else, something else. Um, yeah, so there's like a degree of separation there, right? And then we can look at the relationship. Mars is going to be in a more hidden position from the sun, based it on it being in the 12th position compared to the sun, right? The sun is in the second position compared to Mars. But so Mars is more hidden, but Mars also can see the sun. So the 12th house has the qualities of being the subconscious. And we know that the subconscious rules so much of our actions, like, especially when we don't know what's in there and we haven't, done the work, done the shadow work, right? Done the shadow work to clean it out. Mars is in the shadow position. So Mars is like, can call the shots, can have sort of a controlling position over the sun in this case. But the sun is going to be more seen, right? The sun is going to be more present. The sun is going to be like the leader, not just because it's the sun, but the position wise. And this is obviously for any two planets, this would be the case, um, right? Whereas with a semi-sextile, the planet in the behind would be have the 12th house qualities. The planet in the front would have um, second house qualities because it's the semi-sextile. So it when we look at it the other way. So Mars is in the first house position, Sun is in the second house position. So now the second house is the voice, the appearances, the dress, the image, right? The second house we have the voice, we have security, we have finances, we have materialism, but we also have the appearance, the clothes, the makeup, the hair, the watch, the bag, the coat, the shoes, the whole thing, right? Whether you're a man or a woman, like that, it's going to differ, but the image, right? How you present yourself, how you appear, how your voice. Actors always have, not always, but a lot of times have strong second houses because it's all about appearances, right? They need to appear a certain way. They need to have a certain image, right? So that's what the second house, that's when a semi-sextile, um, the planet, the falling, the secondary planet, the lead planet, um, the planet in the higher degree, that's what qualities it's going to have. So there's that relationship, 12th house, second house with the semi-sextile. Um, yeah, the planet in the lower degree will feed the planet in the higher degree. So it's kind of like the flow. The flow goes from, obviously this way, counterclockwise. Uh, so yeah, it's fine, especially if it's in it's exact degree, right? Tighter the degree, the more easily they'll work together. And yeah, but it's just there's just some. It's not great. It's not super powerful either. It's 12th, right? And if we're looking at magnitude of influence, then the lower the number, the more powerful it is, right? So obviously, and we'll look at that later. But like obviously, the most powerful is the conjunction. The second most powerful is the opposition. But we're just going in order by number, by by placement for now. So let's go to the sextile, which is number 6. Oh no, we're gonna do the semi-square because that's coming up. And that's number 8. Uh, so again, it's gonna have qualities of the square, which is tension, inner and external tension. But this is more internal, right? Because it's half and they're more aligned, right? Still, now this is like the person at work who you don't get along with. You're both doing similar stuff. They might be in a different department from you, um, but you're not really getting along. There's a lot of tension there, because there's still similarity. You're only one sign apart. Potentially, it could be two signs. right? But um, there's a lot of tension, but there's some similarity. So it's like you're the same group, same company, same family, same tribe, same community, but there's that tension there. You're just, this is the person who you're gonna argue with at work, right? That's one way of looking at it. Yeah, but just that general vibe. And then of course Mars, the planet that's in the um lower degree is going to have somewhat of that controlling quality, right? Because it's going to have a bit of that 12th house vibe. Um, depending on the how what signs they're in, right? Like if it's straddling a sign and it's like, Sag and Aquarius, then it's going to be different from, Sag and Capricorn. But Yeah, the planet that's in the lower degree is going to have a more controlling ability over the planet that's in the higher degree. Although the higher degree is going to have more a frontal quality, second, third house um, quality. So it's going to be able to be more seen, be more heard, be more expressive, right? Voice and words, right? But this is more like the 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 show person versus the person writing the script, right? The person on stage, the script writer, something like that, right? Like the behind the scenes calling the shots and the front of the scenes being seen and heard. So yeah, but definitely conflict there, right? And it's number eight on um, the the number of aspects. Yeah, it's because when I say eight, I mean like this is 1/8 of the circle. We do eight semi-squares. It'll be four squares or the whole circle, right? So that's what the number eight means. Yeah. And then the next will be the sextile. Oh no, that's the septile. Sorry, my bad. We'll do that first. Septile. Septile is going to be definitely a hidden aspect. And when I say hidden, I mean because it's not one of the main um it's not one of it doesn't um divide by 12, right? Essentially. 7 does not fit into 12. 2 times 7, 1 times 7 is not 12. 2 times 7 is 14. It's also not 12, right? The divisions of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Right? So those are the main aspects, Ptolemaic aspects. These are sometimes called minor aspects, but they're not really minor. They're more hidden. And so one of the things about septiles is that it's considered to be um, have a spiritual quality, a quality of completion, a quality of um, focus and balance. Um, a lot of woo-woo stuff is associated with it because it's a hidden aspect, but it could be like a spiritual quality in the person, um, psychic potential even, other realm associations. Definitely, yeah, it's like that number seven quality that you know relates to God even, right? So there's all kinds of hidden qualities with the septile or biseptile or triseptile that come through, right? One of my strongest aspects, probably my strongest, is a triseptile between Neptune and Sag in the second and Jupiter in Taurus. So Jupiter is dignifying Neptune in the second. And so yeah, that doesn't come through very often, but it does indicate a very strong like spiritual vein, especially with Neptune and Jupiter and the dignity there, just as an example. But yeah, this would be a spiritual indicator, right? Something spiritual here, right? Something hidden, mystical, woo, psychic. Um, yeah. And if it's really tight, then it's going to be much more active. Trying to find the sextile. All right. We do. It's important, I think, to try and understand it the way we understand houses, right? We're gonna get a much deeper understanding of the aspects if we understand their relationship to how we understand the houses, right? So here we have the sextile. It's number six, sex six. That means that we can divide the circle into six sextiles, and we get full, and it would be complete, right? Um, but these are two signs apart, um, or three sign, one, two, three signs, depending on how you count it, right? Um, but they are the same gender expression, I guess you could say. I don't really like that because these are not masculine or feminine signs. We call them that, but it's more like yin and yang or light and dark, or I don't know if we have the best word. They're not men and women. We That's for sure. But I mean, there's some quality I guess that slightly relates more to the feminine energy in these signs rather than the other signs which are more masculine. But you could say like passive signs versus active signs. Anyway, um, yeah, they're going to be the same uh, polarity. Let's call it the same polarity, right? Um, this would be, for 11 relationship, 11th house, first house relationship, or first, third relationship. So sextile is obviously it's so in potency, it's number six. Uh, that's generally like how you can tell like how strong it is, right? So the sextile is obviously not going to be as powerful as a trine, right? Or an opposition or a conjunction. But it is still a good friendly combination, right? So the sextile I think of it's like friends, right? You know, um, you get along with a sextile. If you have a sextile in your chart, that's showing harmonious friendship, similar direction, right? Um, they're not completely opposed to each other. They're headed in a similar direction in a harmonious way, but there's some polarity. There's some attraction. There's some difference there. It's not like a semi-sextile where it's like Bob at work. There's Bob. We can work together, but that's about it, you know? There's some dynamic quality here. You get along, you're doing stuff similar together, and you actually enjoy this person, right? If it's a person, it's not always a person, but it does come off often in it does present itself as people often, right? But it could be also like an internal thing, especially when it's um, this close together. This could be, two different parts of yourself really harmonizing well. Um, yeah. And obviously the planet with the lower degree, in this case Mars, is going to have a more controlling um, uh, influence on the sun. It's going to be in a more powerful, stronger position. But again, it's going to have, the lead planet is going to have more surface uh, presentation, right? It's going to be more expressive. It's going to be between the two. The sun will be the the front, right? The show person, the expression, this will be the script writer. This will be the person on stage, essentially, something like that. If you want to um, have that, if you want to put it in those terms. But let's just look at it the other way. So here we have first, third relationship, right? So it's always like that. So in this sextile, you'll have 11, 3. 11, this will be in the 11 position, and this will be in the 3 position. I never look at it as like the first because you could put any planet in the first house, but the essential nature is 11 and 3, right? Um, so the sun in the third position with the sextile compared to Mars is obviously having the more expressive um, uh, position in this because it's occupying the third house, the intellect, the expression, the words, the writing, the social, the neighbors, right? Um, and the 11 also is social, but this is a very social aspect because 11 3. Um, but it's more of the community groups networks, the 11th house. So yeah, this aspect is very airy. It's 11 and 3. Yeah. So let's keep going. The next one will be the fourth, the square. Oh no, the quintile. Quintile is first. And quintile is another hidden aspect. Let's do it like that. Uh, Probably could be a little bit stronger, but the quintile is a hidden aspect. It's number 5, so divide the chart into 5. Obviously, 12 and 5 do not 5 does not divide into 12 evenly, so it's not a Ptolemaic aspect. It's one of the hidden aspects. But a quintile is very creative, right? As its name suggests, it's number 5. Um, it's Venusian and it has relationships to Venus because Venus actually goes in the 5-star pattern as it rotates, right? But also the fifth sign, fifth house, so it has that kind of Leo creative quality as well. Uh, yeah, and similar thing. Always the planet in the lower degree has the controlling position, right? But if you have strong quintiles, then that's suggestive of creative quality, creative ability. And yeah, I mean, you can see this a lot in artists, musicians, creative types. And that's pretty much it. These are not house associations because of it's not dividing evenly into house, but yeah, I mean, you can kind of get the idea. The lead planet is going to be more by lead. I mean, the planet in the lower degree is going to have the controlling but more hidden position, right? Uh, Although that's arguable because if we put Sun in the first house, then Mars becomes pretty visible in the 10th, 11th area arena, right? So anyway, both pretty visible, but Mars definitely has a it's in the superior position. Let's put it that way. All right. Um, let's find that square. What was that? Oh, that's a novile. I guess we missed. Okay, so I mean, novile is a hidden position. We don't really need to go over that. It's a hidden aspect. I'm calling it a hidden aspect, right? The hidden aspects are this quintile, septile, and novile, and undecile, which is 11, the 11 tile, right? But the novile, in Vedic astrology, they love the novile. They do the ninth harmonic chart, which is essentially ninth aspect. Harmonic charts are basically what these are, the aspect um, charts. Yeah, it represents number 9. So it's not going to be as strong as a quintile or a septile or any of the numbers lower, but it's still there and it's still valid and it's same principles hold true. And I mean, it's interesting in Vedic, they consider it the chart to look at for, I think, general luck and marriage. right? But luck I can understand. Marriage is interesting for number nine, but for some reason that's the association in Vedic astrology. If you have a strong, I think it's Navamsha, number nine, ninth harmonic chart, then it's considered, very beneficial for marriage. But anyway, number nine is a very complete number, like number seven, like number 12, right? There's a system of nine in Japanese astrology. They use nine key, right? So nine's a powerful number, a very complete number. Tesla did he said three, six, and nine, where if you understand that, you can understand everything, something like that. But yeah, so it's definitely worth studying and keeping in mind. Same principles apply, obviously. And now we get to the square. I want to get it exact, satisfy my Virgo perfection, need for perfection. All right, there we go. And let's put it on the ascendant. All right. So with the square, it's number four. The square is obviously there's a lot of tension in the square, right? And the square is in between inner and outer, right? Because when the planets are on the same side before the square, then it's like they're on the same team, whether they're getting along or not getting along. That's really what it comes down to. It's like, how are you getting along or not getting along? How are you, how well are you getting along? When it's the aspects are less than the square. It's like similarity. It could be either internalized or externalized, but similar, right? Like working on the same team and the same job and the same career and the same community and the same group and the same, family and the same, network, right? When you get to the square, it could be internal or external. It could be internal tension, like I have like, you know, an argument with myself, right? But it could be an argument with somebody else as well. It's that the square represents the divide between the internal and external. So and sometimes it can manifest in different ways. You know, obviously when we get to the opposition, you'll see it's really about the other, right? That's why in the seventh house is about the other. It's about relationships, about other people, right? When we get to the opposition, it's all about other people, right? But when we get to the square, it's feathering that line. It's in between the opposition and the conjunction, right? That's the way to think about a square. It's like conjunction, opposition, square is dividing that two. Conjunction is all about self, opposition is all about the other, and the square is that tension. That's really the essence of the square. And then there's two sides of the square. There's the 10th and the fourth, right? So obviously the planet in the lead is going to have a much more controlling, powerful, um, outwardly leadership position, right? Because of the 10th, bringing in the Capricornian archetype, 10th house Capricorn. And so, yeah, Mars is sort of having a controlling influence on the sun, with tension, right? With that, it requires hard work. It's not necessarily bad. If the two planets are malefic, it can turn bad, right? But it requires work. It requires effort to harmonize this quality, and it takes time, right? But there's the 10th, and then sorry, and then the fourth, right? Um, Now the sun in the fourth position is going to be more. It's going to have a Cancerian vibe, so it's going to be more like um, hidden, protected. Even though it's in the lead, and formally the lead planet would have the more visible, showy position. In this case, not so much. This is in obviously it has a fourth house association, so it's a bit more hidden and it's a bit more physical, right? The the planet in the lower degree in the square is going to have the leadership quality, calling the shots, but it's also going to be much more intellectual, right? The planet on the higher degree of the square, the Cancer position, is going to be more hidden, but also more physical, right? So there's going to be more of a um, physicality, building. It could be actually, doing the work, right? Doing the physical work, right? The lead planet, the planet in the lower degree will have the mental leadership um position, right? That'll be its responsibility. And the planet on the higher degree of the square, the Cancerian part, will be definitely like more, yeah, like having the hidden, but like it'll have the physicality. The brunt of the physical work will fall on this planet, right? The lower planet, the inferior position, right? Yeah, squares require a lot of hard work, right? It's just a lot of struggle with squares. And definitely that can manifest, like I said, internally or externally, and sometimes both. But you always feel that tension with squares. And there with squares, you often have like there will be like it'll manifest in life as like some challenge that they have to overcome. Now we're getting another septile, but now we get to the trine. The trine is obviously the most harmonious. Modality wise, I forgot to talk about the square. Obviously, the square will have, um, same modality. You know, whether it's mutable, cardinal, or fixed, and that's very important as well, right? Because the fixed squares are the most intense. Cardinal squares are also intense. Mutable squares are probably the easiest. I don't know if they're the easiest, but they're the most flexible. But yeah, that's definitely I'm more interested in right now for this talk the uh respective relationship um as it relates to the houses. All right. Now that's an excellent trine. You had this trine, with Sun on the ascendant and Mars and Aries. Sun and Leo, they're both dignified, right? But what you're getting with the trine is it's number three. Um, and it's the same element, right? You're always getting unless it's a degree based trine that's out of element, out of sign, you're getting real harmony here. And this can be anything like great friends, great lovers, partners. It's definitely like, because now you have like uh the polarity. So there's a lot of attraction, but as communication as well, right? And those two things are often not the same, right? They're often opposite. They're often polarized, but attraction and communication, right? When there's good communication, there might not be great attraction. When there's great attraction, there might not be good communication. With the trine, you have both. You have enough attraction and enough communication that these two will really get along great. If you have it in yourself, right? Manifesting for yourself, this can represent a talent, a skill, something that you find very easy to do or to it's just a skill, whether it's like artistic or intellectual or physical, mechanical, whatever. It's certain kind of skill, leadership, right? Yeah. And let's see. The planet in the higher degree is going to cast its influence on the planet in the lower degree, but in a beneficial way, right? Um, And these two are this would be a great one to have because Mars, they're both in dignity, and then Sun's exalted in Aries, so Sun is dignifying Mars, right? Um, yeah. And then so it's like fit ninth and fifth house, so which are both considered, you know, good, really good houses here. So it's like, if this would also be a great combination to have. Um, yeah, Mars in the first is maybe not ideal, but it's still really good dignity and gets along great and harmony. So yeah. And again, it could be internal or external. Internal represents talents and skills. External, it can represent a relationship that works really well. Friend, lover, business partner, anything. Total harmony. Sesquisquare. That's um that's a square and a half. That's interesting. I mean, so again, that's what number would that be? Um, that is in the square. I mean, that essentially is number eight, right? It's three eighths. So that's similar to the semi-square. Um, so yeah, we don't really need to go over that again. Similar thing. Uh, Planet in the higher degree is controlling the lower degree. It represents tension, similar to square, similar to set square. Less powerful than a square. I'll say that. A square is going to be more intense. If you have this, there's um, this is obviously more oppositional, almost similar to a quincunx. But let me just put it in aspect. So like if it was this way, yeah, that'd be a sixth house with the sun. Um, yeah, this would be eighth house. So it does have that quality of six eighth, similar to a quincunx. Um, it's not as exact, right? We'll get to the quincunx soon. But yeah, this is not. I wouldn't place as much emphasis on the sesquisquare, but it is an aspect, and it is there, and it represents something similar to semi-square or square, but it's more oppositional. The way the square is like that tension between internal and external, this is more external. This is more about opposition, more like an enemy, somebody who you just really don't get along with very well. Now we get to the quincunx. And this is a true 6/8 relationship. And let me get it exact. There we go. Especially when the degrees um line up, you know, the the weaker the aspect, the more you need tight orbs, right? So quincunx is a 12th aspect. It's 5/12, right? So it's has vibes of the semi-sextile, but way more oppositional. Semi-sextile is Bob at work. This is Bob, who's your boss. Essentially, that's what it is, right? Bob's not your boss. And Bob, as your boss, um, gets to tell you what to do, right? The planet that has the eighth position, that's the boss. That's the dominatrix. All the eighth house associations uh, go to Mars in this case, right? Which means the position of power and control, manipulation, shared resources, but they're in the power position, right? Mars in this case, if it was a money issue, the Mars would be the one receiving the money. Sun would be the one paying the money, right? Um, Now it could be reversed, there could be it could be that way for a while, and then debts need to be paid back. But generally speaking, the eighth house is more about receiving things that are others generally, right? Criminality can often, so like this would be the dominatrix, this would be the crime boss, right? This would be the criminal, right? This would be the victim. Um, what else? Uh, yeah, it could be a sexual relationship where one person is dominating the other, right? Like the dominatrix and the submissive, um, or a literal boss. A situation where one person is just overpowering the other, right? Some sort of imbalanced relationship. It's a relationship with two people, two sides, and one side is overpowering the other. If it's internalized, then it means that Mars is really crushing the sun. So like this person's sun would be very Martian, Mars dominated. And in this case, not so bad. Mars in Aries, which is the sun is exalted in Aries, so this can be a very Martian type person. Right? If we look at it the other way, then we can see Mars. So it's a first house, sixth house relationship, right? So the sun, um, Mars still has the eighth house energy. Sun has six, but you can see it in different ways, right? And so like the sun is in the has the service in the position of service. So the sun is much more likely to do the work here, right? So like the Mars is calling the shots, sun is getting to work and getting busy and doing the stuff, right? Because that's the sixth house position. It's hard work. It's might be complaining, right? Might be wanting to challenge the boss, but it's not in a great position to. But although it can, right? It can challenge the boss. Sixth house is very has this quality of wanting to even the odds. The underdog who wants to, wants his comeuppance, right? Give me what's mine, right? I'll show you. Um, but as it is, Mars is in the superior position here. Right? So that's always the quincunx. Is this one side is stronger than the other, dominating the other. It's about imbalanced relationships. Same as the sixth and eighth house, right? So, in my opinion, it is a major aspect because of its relationship to the houses. It fits evenly, right? It is a 12th aspect, right? So it is one of the main. It's not a hidden aspect like the quintile or septile or novile or undecile. It's a seen aspect. So it is very much. And when people have this aspect in real life, I can point it out. I can show it to you, and it shows up. It's like when it's tight, it really works. It's really there. Uh, and it works in this way that one planet is dominating, asserting its influence over the other planet. And then we get the opposition. Fine tune it here. All right. We'll do Mars at the helm, Sun opposite. All right. And this obviously is for any two planets. Here we have Mars in domicile, and then Sun in debility, opposite its exaltation. But Sun in this case would be dignifying Mars. And this is a true case of opposites, right? This often shows up as a relationship in real life, right? This can be internalized, right? Like as a person has two, directly opposing sides of themselves. If it's the full moon, that shows sociability, right, and worldliness, right? And it'll show the same thing with any two planets that are opposite, but you have to take into account the planets and signs and houses, of course. Um, but usually when there's a strong opposition, the person will have it'll manifest in real life, right? Like you see this a lot with fighters, right? Because they're in a ring opposed to somebody else. It's a direct opposition. Um, so it can also show up as relationships, right? Because of the first seventh house nature of this. And it doesn't even have to be in the first or seventh house. It's just nature of oppositions, right? So it's good and bad. I mean, it's not necessarily good or bad, but it has both those qualities of, if it shows up in a relationship, if it's like, you know, moon on one side and then like Jupiter on the other, or Venus or you know, even Sun or Mercury, then that's going to show the type of relationship a person has. In this case, is probably it's confrontational, oppositional. Yeah, Sun is dignifying Mars, but Mars and Sun are both heated planets, especially Mars and Aries. This Mars and Aries wants to fight, wants to start stuff. Um, Sun and Aries is more like the referee, so he's going to be starting with the referee or something like that. I don't know. I'm just making up stuff, but anyway, definitely like you'll see this a lot with people who have oppositional something. Like they just like to go up against other people. Maybe they like to debate. Maybe they like to wrestle. Maybe they like maybe they're into tennis or boxing or maybe they're a lawyer, where they stand trial. But in any case, they like to have somebody on the other side. This could be therapy as well, right? Counseling and therapy, where it's like two people, right? Um, facing each other. Definitely externalized, right? But there's some equality here, unlike the quincunx where it's unequal, right? Like if somebody mugs you, that's a quincunx situation because they're in the Scorpio position. If you're paying them, then you're in the Virgo position. Prostitution has that sixth house, eighth house vibe as well, where believe it or not, the prostitute is in the sixth Virgo position, and uh, the person who's seeking the prostitute is in the eighth house position because they're in the stronger position, right? They're the more powerful. They have the money, and although it could be reversed. I mean, you could see that the other way around as well. But that's also a sixth house, eighth house position. But whoever's the dominant position would be the eighth, and whoever's in the weaker subservient service positions in the sixth. Right? Depends how you view it. Right. Obviously, like, you know, in Monster, where like the Charlize Theron played the criminal prostitute who like killed men, right? Obviously, that she was in the Scorpio position and the men were in the Virgo position, right? That's an extreme example. Or like Cardi B, who would like lure men to bed and then steal their money. She has eighth house planets. It's very obvious in her chart, but that is a Scorpio eighth house. But when we have the opposition, it's just purely like let's play by the rules. We're not going to engage in criminality, but we're going to be oppositional and we're going to duke it out. We're going to fight, or we're going to compete, or we're just going to have, like I said, it's not always aggressive. It could be therapy, counseling, marriage, partners, social, one-on-one, debating. Anyway, all the combinations where it's just, you know, playing by the rules, but in opposition. Where you're not playing by the rules, where it's like criminality, where it's like, give me your money, punk. That's a quincunx situation, right? Um, yeah, and so that's all the aspects. Um, what's important to note is that the strength is determined by the number. So like the opposition is the second most powerful aspect. The conjunction is the most powerful. Opposition's second most powerful. Trine, third most powerful. Square, fourth most powerful. Quincunx, fifth most powerful. Sextile, sixth most powerful. Septile, seventh most powerful. Octile, which is the semi-square, eighth. Novile, ninth. Right? Just like that. 11th, undecile. That's why I don't use 11th aspect anymore, because it's hidden and it's not as powerful, not as potent as most of the other ones. So it's like, how are we, unless you know somebody really well, how are you going to even, coax that out, like figure out what even that means, right? There's maybe if somebody has tons of undeciles that are like really tight and it's like in a shape, right? Then you'll be able to see it, right? They might have some genius qualities to them, but otherwise it's like really difficult to tell, right? The 12th, because it is obviously a 12 number system, um, we see that more than the undecile. We can make sense of it more, right? But opposition, second most powerful aspect. But um, then it goes like you can go like harmonious, unharmonious. Like a conjunction is going to have more harmony than opposition. Yeah, even though there's potential for dis certain elements of disharmony with a conjunction because of its intensity. Mostly it's harmonious. Opposition, um, yeah, it can be harmonious, but it can equally be unharmonious. Trine is very harmonious, right? Square again, disharmonious. Hard requires hard work, eventually can be harmonious. Then you quintiles, harmonious, right? Sextile, again, I mean, that is considered a harmonious aspect. And if we don't take into the quintile, then it would fall into, then it would alternate as the harmonious. But yeah, so septile is definitely a harmonious aspect, and then octile unharmonious, right? So sextile is interesting. Like, is it harmonious or disharmonious? I mean, obviously, it is pretty even and balanced, and so it has a certain harmony, but also has um, definitely not as harmonious as a trine, right? So anyway, interesting. We can try and draw more conclusions based on that. Um, but yeah, trine is certainly conjunction and trine, and those are the two most, you know, quintile and then septile are also pretty harmonious, right? But they're hidden. But as far as the aspects that are really seen, the main aspects and the most harmonious, I would definitely say conjunction and trine. Opposition and sextile, definitely potential there for harmony, but um, not as much. Anyway, guys, I think that's it for the transits. And I just main thing is like I wanted to show you how they relate um in terms of the houses. Like don't I think the main takeaway is like don't throw away the meaning of the houses um when we're looking at aspects, right? Because the opposition does not have a completely unrelated meaning to the seventh house. It's completely related to that. That's essentially what it is. Like the seventh house is opposite the ascendant. So there's an opposition there. But we don't always, sometimes people say opposition, oh, that's bad. It's not necessarily bad, right? Is the seventh house bad? An opposition is only bad if the seventh house is bad because they have the same nature, right? Depending on the planets, depending on what's there, right? If it's Mars and Saturn, Mars and Pluto, that's going to be difficult, right? No matter how you slice it. But if it's Mars and Venus, right? Or Moon and Jupiter, um, Sun and Mars. I mean, these are planets. I mean, they're not necessarily bad. Sun and Mars might be a bit heated, but you know, Moon and Mercury, those would be nice to have opposition. Yeah. So, and again, like the quincunx, in order to make sense, some people just like ignore the quincunx. Why would you ignore the? Are you going to ignore the sixth house and eighth house? That has the same relationship, right? And they have the same nature. So, and then like the square is like the division in between that tension between the inner and outer, or you have to work to resolve it. You have to work to resolve all the difficult aspects. They represent karmas, karmic lessons in our life that we have to embody within ourselves. Anyway, I think that's it, guys. So, hope you found this interesting and hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, book a reading with me, and I will see you again soon. All right, thanks. Bye.